Gefechtsstation!
Greetings, folks. Eeler here with the next World of Warships replay. Today's match is brought to us by Sky Tank Dog from the EU server. Sky has had a couple of his replays featured on the channel before, and I'll leave links to those replays in the description below. Sky is sailing the Tier 9 German heavy cruiser, the Hohn. He is in a domination match on Trap. This is a Tier 10 match with a significant number of cruisers and no aircraft carriers. Sky's ship build focuses on DPM by taking the main battery modification 3 upgrade in slot 6, and he's working with a 10-point commander that has a really solid set of base skills. The backstory for this match, I guess, is that Tank elected to take a Tier 9 ship as kind of a break from a lot of the Tier 10 ships that he had been playing as of late. I'm not sure how much of a break this is, since Tier 9 ships routinely see Tier 10 matches anyway. But nonetheless, Sky plays a terrific match, taking the lead for his team. Just a quick language tip. The proper pronunciation of Sky's ship is Roon, rhyming with tone and not tune. So with that, let's go ahead and get to the gameplay, as we are advancing toward the Charlie cap. Now, my experience on Trap, especially for the team that spawns in the north, is to drive the Charlie and the Bravo caps. Even from the south flank or the south spawn, going Bravo and Charlie is not a bad idea. There tends to be, however, a tendency for the south spawn to gravitate toward Alpha. In my experience with Alpha, working from either side, is that capture point is really kind of compressed into the corner of the map. And with the islands that are on its north and east side of that cap, really can make that a very difficult map or capture point to take. I often see a lot of teams sort of squaring off and having these sort of prolonged engagements at the cap at Alpha, and this makes it very hard to be able to take the cap from either side. It is important, however, as with any 3-point domination game, to not only look to establish some center map control at Bravo, but also at least defend or spot the flank coming from Alpha. And unfortunately, the allied Kagero that was on the south side has basically abandoned Alpha. And he doesn't really necessarily need to contest the cap, but he can at least spot what is at the cap and what may be coming through. The Kagero has excellent concealment, basically the best at that tier, and frankly of all upper tier destroyers. So it's kind of in an ideal position to be able to spot what's coming from Alpha. And as a result, because he didn't go to Alpha, the allied Iowa, which is on the one line, is kind of being left abandoned, and he's going to have to get turned around here. He just has no support. Switch back to Sky's perspective here. He's gotten a couple of really nice AP salvos on the Edinburgh. Edinburgh is finished off, and he's going to try to leverage the terrain here to get some shots in on the Montana and the Musashi. We do lose one of our allied cruisers, the Cleveland, to the Z-52, and that was at Bravo. Right now, Sky's team is very concentrated at Charlie. They have overwhelming firepower here. They should be pushing into the cap. We do know there is one opposing destroyer, that is the opposing Kagero, which is in Charlie, and Sky is now detected here. So he knows that the destroyer is sort of midpoint in the cap probably, and he's going to push forward here and activate his hydroacoustic search and try to drive out the destroyer. Now, there's a significant risk here because Sky being a cruiser, it's kind of hard for him to take the lead on driving the cap with two opposing battleships, the Musashi and the Montana, who are going to both target him here as he's pushing into the cap. In fact, here comes a salvo from the Montana. He does angle, but looks like he does take a couple of pens, and the Musashi will target him as well. And in fact, Sky will obviously weather the attack here as they take Charlie, but he will come out of this cap having earned well in excess of 1 million potential damage. There he, one of his, I think it's his X turret is knocked out from the Musashi. Now they have detected the opposing Kagero. The Kagero was detected here well beyond 6 kilometers, so it's not his Hydro that's picking up the Kagero. It looks like the Kagero just doesn't have concealment expert or some sort of concealment capacity on his ship, and so they are able to focus out the destroyer. Here, Sky is trying to use maneuvering and sort of throttling in order to throw off these salvos that are coming from the Musashi and the Montana. He also knows that he's being targeted by a third ship, although that may have been in fact it was the opposing drone was firing on him as well. Sky has now gone into concealment, and he is going to try to remain in concealment until the Allies get the cap here. Although the opposing battleships are going to get some shots in on other Allied ships that are in Charlie and get some partial resets here. In fact, we just saw one right there. Sky elects to open up here. Since Sky has most of the capture points, I probably would have held my fire here until I knew that I had the cap before opening it up again. But he has actually slipped back into concealment thanks to the terrain. So he's going to be able to fire here reliably and safely. Gets another fire on Montana, which I think this is one that's going to burn for a while because the Montana, I think, previously did damage control. Sky, as I mentioned earlier, Sky is up to over 1 million in potential damage at this point now that they've gotten the cap. It's going to be very important for Sky's team to push south toward Bravo and try to get some center map control. The opposing team, however, has, in my opinion, a better position on Charlie. While we do have an allied gearing that is in Bravo and has gotten most of that cap, the cap is being contested. It turns out that that cap is going to be from the opposing Baltimore, I believe. But the opposing team, in my opinion, again, actually has a much better position on Bravo because they have more ships either in or close to the cap to be able to support taking it than Sky's team. The Sky, having weathered a lot of salvos from the opposing battleships, wants to try to just get some DPM in here, let the Shima take point, get some spotting, and have the Allied battleships go behind or follow behind the destroyer, and then the cruisers fall behind that. That's really kind of an ideal position for a cruiser, is that allows the destroyer to do the spotting, the battleships to take more of the lead and to tank the salvos, and the cruisers can provide supporting artillery fire. This guy is going to get turned around here and is going to have to start moving down south towards Bravo, but we can see now the opposing Baltimore that is in Bravo, and looks like he did radar the gearing and got some resets on the cap, because the cap progress has been substantially reduced. In my opinion, there's too much focus here on this opposing Montana. Montana is quite far from being able to support a cap. He is probably a fairly desirable target to take out because he's about half health, and you don't typically want to leave a very good long-range artillery battleship like the Montana on your flank, but that Montana is drawing a lot of attention away from pushing into Bravo to be able to at least contest and support the gearing there and try to focus down some of the opposing ships that are in and near Bravo. Again, Sky is being targeted here by 2 and now 3 ships, and it looks like it's both the Musashi and the Montana from substantial ranges are trying to hit Sky here. But there comes the salvo from both the ships. He does take some more damage from the Musashi, so that was a pretty substantially long shot. It's always interesting how battleships are more interested in firing at cruisers, it seems, regardless of the range, than they are even opposing battleships that they can see that are much closer to them sometimes. Here we also detect the opposing Neptune. This is a place, in my opinion, where expert loader comes in really handy because once a very squishy cruiser like that is detected, You want to be able to quickly switch and then get a salvo off. So he's had to rely on just using HE at that point. He does get a pretty nice salvo and disables some module. I think there was some torpedoes on the Neptune. But now the key for the Allied team is to focus down the Baltimore and get the radar off the map, off the cap, so that the Allied destroyers can more safely move into the cap to contest it. The opposing Shimakaze, which is very healthy, is also now gotten on their flank, and that is going to be a threat they're going to have to locate and eliminate as well. A really nice torpedo drop from the Allied Neptune does take down the Baltimore, so now the radar's been eliminated. If I think if I were Sky, I would be a little bit frustrated that the Gearing or the Shima weren't trying to push back in towards taking a cap. The Shima has gone very wide and seems to be more intent on trying to take down the battleships, which are quite frankly quite far from any objectives. And so that's, again, taking a really critical resource like the Shima essentially out of focusing on the objective. Neptune's put up his hydroacoustic search here in anticipation of torpedoes coming from the Shima. The Sky has a, one note I should make here, Sky does have a repair party available to him, but he hasn't used it. I don't know if he's just very focused on trying to get damage in on these ships and trying to stay in some concealment, or he's trying to leverage the adrenaline rush effect to improve his DPM. But he does have a repair party available to him. We do lose the Allied Gearing and to the opposing Neptune. And so that is a serious issue, because that means that there's limited spotting that can be made on this very healthy Shima. And so the Shima is currently detected. In fact, now we've just lost the Neptune that was on the north side of Bravo. So the Allied team is now working with a one-ship deficit. And they also have more than a 300-point deficit as well. The Allied Shimakaze, again, continues to be, in my opinion, in a position that's not supporting the team effectively. He should be closer to the middle to be able to spot. I don't know whether the opposing Neptune is radar or smoke. If he were radar, obviously that would be very dangerous for the Allied Shimakaze. But we need in my opinion, we need the Shimakaze more in the center of the map to provide spotting and area denial and try to help contest Bravo. Weather a few more salvos here from the Richelieu, and I believe that's the opposing Neptune that was firing on Sky as well. Sky's going to need to slip back into some concealment here. Again, he does have a repair party charge available to him to get some of his health back, and he also did, you may have noticed earlier, he sent torpedoes in the direction of the Shima. I'm not sure that they had quite the range to get to the Shima in his smoke, but certainly if the Shima had pushed forward out of his smoke, he would have been at risk of taking torpedoes. So Sky has activated his hydroacoustic search here and is going to push toward the Shima. And he is now detected. So he knows the Shima has come out of his smoke. And there is the Shima. And the Shima has now slipped into the hydroacoustic range of Sky's ship. The hydroacoustic search is going to only be up for another 20 seconds or so. This is in a place where I really like having the hydroacoustic search special upgrade on the German cruisers. Is it gives them substantially longer time on the hydro in situations like this, can be very effective. Sky's got to be a little bit careful here. I think if I were in Sky's position, I'd be more concerned about the Shima than the Richelieu. The Hohn, along with the Hipper class, the Eugen, and the Hindenburg can bow tank the Richelieu. But the Shima's torpedoes are probably the bigger risk. So the Sky is going to detect the Shima here, going to salvo off and finish off the Shima, and he's going to turn in to rightfully anticipate torpedoes. And now it makes sense for him to be pushing toward the Richelieu. And this is, again, a place where, as a German heavy cruiser, being able to charge some of the battleships, especially those with less than 400 millimeter rifles, can be very effective. The Roon is less adept at being able to charge opponents like this for two reasons. One is obviously it only has one forward turret, and it has to give a pretty considerable amount of side in order to get all of its turrets into action. And the other limitation is that it only has one set of torpedoes on each side. So unlike most of the Roon's not counterparts, but other ships in the German cruiser line, most of the others have two sets of torpedoes on each side. The Roon only has one, and that can make it quite difficult to be able to charge. He's going to get off some AP salvos here on the Neptune and is going to finish off the Neptune, and then the torpedo. He is going to land a torpedo on the Richelieu and earn a double strike here. Fortunately, the Allied Massachusetts wandered directly into the gap where the Neptune was and ended up taking a bunch of torpedoes and was taken out. However, thanks to Sky's leadership and what he's taken down and some help from his allies, they have now brought this to a one-ship advantage, but they still have a huge point gap of over 300 points because they only hold one cap to the opponent's two. The Allied Shimakaze again continues to try to chase the opposing battleships that are on the flank rather than trying to get into a position to take the cap, which in my opinion would be a more valuable thing for him to do. But if nothing else, he can provide some spotting, but he at least was in his smoke and was limiting his spotting here. I think he was probably just trying to turn away from the Montana. So Sky's going to push down here into Bravo with an Allied Prinz Eugen, two German heavy, and in fact the Shima does finally get a torpedo on the Montana and take him out. So this North Carolina, in my opinion, is making a mistake. Facing even though he does have 406 millimeter rifles and he can overmatch the bow and stern armor of these two German heavy cruisers, he's got two that he has to contend with. And they both have torpedoes and in close quarters can be very effective. And this is also a place where I would be using AP. The German heavy cruiser AP is very potent against broadside battleships. And there will be a later salvo that Sky will get on the North Carolina with AP and will do a substantial amount of damage. The Sky's going to change his focus here to the opposing Chapayev. This is again a place where one of the limitations of the Roon in a charging situation, he's having to give a lot of side, and even though these are only 152 millimeter AP salvos from the Chapayev, there's 12 of them. So Sky has taken a lot of damage quite quickly from this Chapayev, but between his AP salvos and the AP salvo of the Prinz Eugen, they are able to finish off the full health Chapayev. And here's the place where had he used AP earlier, he would have gotten a lot more damage. That was almost 10,000 in damage that he got on the North Carolina. Doesn't quite get the North Carolina down for his Kraken, but Sky still does a terrific job earning Dreadnought, Double Strike, Confederate, almost 147,000 in damage, 4 kills, a number of Citadels, earns top XP for his team, and I think rightfully so, at over 2,200 base XP. The opposing Neptune got 4 kills as well. He did really well. I suspect he might have been a radar ship, but he did very well as well. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. If you're inclined, please do subscribe. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.